A notarial officer located in this state may perform a notarial act using a communication technology for a remotely located individual, regardless of whether the individual is physically located in this state, if the notarial officer ensures the remote session is interactive and secure, meaning the notary and person are viewing each other directly in real time, and that the session will not be viewed and/or recorded by an unauthorized party. The notarial officer must follow the security procedures of the National Notary Association as supplemented and amended. Go to the National Notary website or scan the QR code. Is able reasonably to confirm that a record before the notarial officer is the same record in which the remotely located individual made a statement or on which the remotely located individual executed a signature. Obtain satisfactory identification for the remotely located individual, which means the notary public first visually verifies a proof of identity document set forth in Chapter 7, Forms of Identification, and second, uses one of the following methods of identity proofing to authenticate the individual's identity. Dynamic knowledge-based authentication that is provided online by a third party and that substantially follows recommended practices for this form of identification as set forth and supplemented and amended by any of the three following authorities: National Notary Association, National Association of Secretaries of State, Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization. Biometric identity verification that is in substantial compliance with National Institute of Standards and Technology requirements as set forth and supplemented and amended in Special Publication 876-2. Digital Public Key Certificate issued by a trusted third party in substantial compliance with the National Notary Association's recommended practice as set forth or as supplemented and amended. For a remotely located individual who is located outside the United States, ensures the record is to be filed with or relates to a matter before a public official or court, governmental entity, or other entity subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, or involves property located in the territorial jurisdiction of the United States, or involves a transaction substantially connected with the United States, and the act of making the statement or signing the record is not prohibited by the foreign state in which the remotely located individual is located. Completes a certificate and stamps the certificate in accordance with the requirements set forth in Chapter 6, and creates an audio-visual recording of the performance of the notarial act. Before a notary public performs an initial notarial act using communications technology, the notary public must notify the state treasurer electronically in accordance with instructions published at www.nj.gov/njbgs that the notary public will be performing such notarial acts and identify the technologies the notary public intends to use. A notarial officer in this state may use communication technology to take an acknowledgement of a signature on a tangible record that is in the possession of the notary public. In such cases, if the notary displays the record to the remotely located individual, the remotely located individual must identify the record visually. The notary inserts the name of the individual and inserts the date. A notarial officer may perform a notarial act with respect to a tangible record not physically present before the notarial officer if, during the audio-visual session, the remotely located individual has the document and signs the record and acknowledges the transcript of the electronic notary in real time, makes a declaration substantially in the following form which is part of or securely attached to the record. I declare under penalty of perjury that the record to which this declaration is attached is the same record on which, insert name of notarial officer, performed a notarial act, and before whom I appeared by means of communication technology on, insert date. Insert printed name of remotely located individual, insert signature of remotely located individual, and sends the record and declaration to the notarial officer not later than 3 days after the notarial act was performed. And the notarial officer, in the required audiovisual recording, records the individual signing the record and declaration, and, after receipt of the record and declaration from the individual, executes the notarial certificate and provides the stamp specified in Chapter 6, and includes the following statement or words of similar import. I, insert name of the notarial officer, witnessed by means of communication technology, insert name of remotely located individual, sign the attached record and declaration on insert date. A notarial act performed in compliance with this chapter is effective as of the date on which the declaration was signed by the remotely located individual. A notarial officer in this state may administer an oath to a remotely located individual using communication technology. The notarial officer shall identify the remotely located individual by obtaining satisfactory forms of identification pursuant to this chapter, creating an audiovisual recording of the individual taking the oath, and preserving a copy of the audiovisual recording for 10 years. If a notarial act is performed under this chapter, the Certificate of Notarial Act as required and referred to in Module 6A, the notary public must indicate that the notarial act was performed using communication technology. A notarial officer, a guardian, conservator, or agent of a notarial officer, or a personal representative of a deceased notarial officer shall retain the audio-visual recording created under this chapter or cause the recording to be retained by a repository designated by or on behalf of the person required to retain the recording for a period of 10 years.